It's a rush.
It is a rush. You can't describe it. It's hard. It's a high,
Look how bald I'm going, dude.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
I mean, you should just shave it all off. Just go bald.
I don't think I have the head to shave it.
Yeah.
I got kind of a big. This area is kind of big.
You had a big dome.
It's like a bulbous. No.
Somebody will be just have the front part left. That's it right here.
Yeah, just this part. I'll just twirl it up.
Heavy unicorn horn. Spaghetti. Oh, I appreciate it.
Welcome back. Come on in.
I was waiting for it. Come on in.
Time for some spoiler country.
Man, those in the audio podcast, that long pause there, they should go to YouTube and watch us.
They should. They should go to YouTube and watch us.
See our pretty faces.
Today on the show, it's kind of, I always say this for some reason, it's kind of cool. It's really cool.
It is cool.
It's super special. That's another one I always say. I don't know why. It's like I can't come up with the different adjectives. This guy's first huge hit of a movie is a cult phenomenon.
It is a cult classic by far, for sure.
Yeah. And it's funny because when I saw it in the theater, dude, I didn't like it.
Yeah. I was kind of the same way.
Yeah. I sat down. There was one other person in the audience. Okay. That's it. And we both sat through that whole thing. And when the lights came up, we looked at each other and the guy was like, what the hell was that? Like, dude, I don't even know, man. I don't even know.
I saw it with the packed theater with an ex-girlfriend when it came out. And she was laughing. Everyone was laughing, but I was like, I don't get this. But then when I rewatched it, I laughed my ass off. It
wasn't even the rewatch for me. It was from that day on for a good month.
Yeah.
I was quoting that movie every single day without even realizing I was doing it.
Yeah. You didn't even know you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when I realized, I'm like, oh God, I do like Napoleon Dynamite.
It is good. Napoleon Dynamite's hilarious. Vote for Pedro. Yes.
Yeah. Vote for Pedro. What do you do today, Napoleon? Anything I want. God. Oh.
Yeah.
I don't know how we got this guy. Blades of Glory.
Dude.
The freaking Napoleon Dynamite.
The new Tremors movie. Shrieker Island. I mean.
Yep.
Are you a Tremors fan?
I am a Tremors. You know what the cool thing about Tremors is? The first Tremors in the 90s, I worked at a video store.
Yes, you said it before.
Yep.
At least once.
It was the most watched or most rented VHS of all time.
Oh, really?
95, 1996. It blew every other movie out of the water.
Well, it was like a low budget horror film essentially, but that was
the
huge following.
I think that was the movie that told studios that don't worry so much about losing in the box office because you're going to make it up on video.
Oh yeah, because those quote unquote bad horror films make tons of money on rentals because
all the movies that failed in the theater, most of the time the rental market just propped them up big time.
Exactly. And now that rental market is almost fully gone.
Right. That's right. Jon Heder is here today.
Yeah. Chatting with Melissa, man. This is a lot of fun. He is like naturally a funny guy, and his banter back and forth with Melissa is chef's kiss top notch.
Dude, you know what's funny is I was slated to chat with him and I was super excited, but I had some things pop up. And it just wasn't going to be possible.
Yeah, yeah.
And I called Melissa and I said, "Do you want to talk with Jon Heder?" And she said, "Do you wipe your ass when you take a shit?" And I was like, "I do wipe my ass."
Most of the time, yeah, about 70%, yeah.
She was super excited. Yeah. She was like, "Oh, hell yeah!" We actually moved. She had another interview going on at the exact same time. We said, "Boom, we got to bump you." I'm sorry. We gotta bump you. Bumped that dude, moved her around, moved some other pieces around, bam.
Made it happen.
And it was perfect. Melissa was perfect for this.
Oh, yeah. You guys are in for a treat, man. This is so good.
Yeah. So
let's do it.
Johnny, you want to bring us in?
Let's do it, man. Bring right into the interview now. Spaghetti!
This is Spoiler Country, and I'm Melissa Sercha. Today on the show, I'm excited to welcome an iconic actor you all know from films such as Napoleon Dynamite, School for Scoundrels, Blades of Glory, just to name a few. Jon Heder, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I got real close to the mic there. Thank you so much for having me. This is pretty cool.
Yay. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I love doing podcasts and I love talking to you. And it's been kind of cool. It fits nicely with quarantining and the pandemic where, you know,
right.
We have to do this anyway, everywhere we go, but it gives me hope for the future that we can reach out and touch those around us.
Right.
Touch those who are not around us.
Right. Virtually. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you're excited though to get back to like doing cons and, you know, interviews in person again.
Yeah. I mean, just getting out there and just working and getting on sets and seeing people. I really do miss being within reach of physical beings. I mean, I've always been a little bit more of a homebody type. So certainly I've embraced that part, but I realize I miss, you know, being around people.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I'm kind of a homebody as well. But I think when it's like you're told that you can't leave the house, then you're like, well, maybe I want to now.
Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, I think we're headed towards, you know, getting back to normal here, maybe within 6 months or so.
I can smell the horizon.
Right.
And it's great. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. Well, before we get into your latest film, which I do want to talk about, I'd love to ask you about some of your earlier work. So Napoleon Dynamite was such a huge movie. You know, it still is 17 years later, super iconic. And I think it's fair to say it actually, you know, it made you a household name. And, you know, how do you feel about that now? I mean, were you surprised that it blew up as big as it did?
I mean, not... You know, it's weird answering that question, 15, 17 years later. And it's like still, I mean, at the time, I was kind of surprised and kind of not. When we made it, we loved it. I guess I was surprised really at the span of the kind of audience we were hitting. We really didn't think we were going to be like household kind of level. Just more like the underground indie circuit level with cool 20 to 30 somethings who dig like art house cinema or indie cinema. Even saying art house cinema feels a bit pretentious. Like, I don't even know if we were that level. It was more like, okay, but people who are kind of like in the college circuit and a little above.
Yeah.
So when we started seeing kids dressing up and as characters for Halloween or grandparents introducing it to their grandkids and their kids. It's like, whoa, this is like that. That was a bit surprising.
Yeah.
And to that scale. Yeah.
I mean, and you brought back tater tots, you know, you made that a thing again.
and I'd like to think now like fanny packs are really cool. Everybody loves fanny packs now. And I want to think we had a part in that. Even though it was kind of 15 years ago, but I was like holding on strong, like, no, these are cool. You guys just wait.
They're coming back.
Yeah.
Well, and how much was your character in that film scripted and how much was like completely improvised?
No, he was very scripted. Like he was very much like when Jared wrote it, Jared Haas, who wrote and directed the film, when he wrote the feature, we had already kind of established a character in a short film, like a year and a half prior to that.
Okay.
So we did this it was almost like so many writer directors do, especially students do a little proof of concept. And I don't know if that's actually not really how he approached it. He made the short film first, just kind of like for fun. I mean, it was actually an assignment for a film directing class that we were both in.
Oh, cool.
And he always knew, you know, everything he made, at least in the college, in the university level, he was like, he was very interested in telling stories and portraying characters and really kind of portraying like the world that he grew up in there in Preston, Idaho. And there was a short film he had done like a year or so previous, or I think it was a year previous to that, which was kind of the same idea, but it was about a little kid and there was no dialogue. And I remember seeing that and thinking this guy has an eye, like a visual eye, and kind of like he's going for that really raw, honest kind of portrayal of this small town Americana vibe, but also just this character and the world that revolves around this kind of kid or these kind of people. Yeah. And again, while the original first short that he did was a little kid, then he came to me about doing the short film. And he had this character in mind, just like, all right, this is crusty, like weirdo geek kid, but he wanted to throw in dialogue this time. And he just thought I kind of matched that sensibility. And as soon as we started talking just about him and he, the little 7-page script that he had, I was like, oh yeah, I know who this is. I got this. Like, this is totally me and my brothers growing up. And my younger brothers would always they'd get pissed at everything. And it doesn't matter if their life is going well. It's just like, oh, why does everything have to smell like crap? And, oh, this is gross. And it was just that kind of vibe. And I was like, and again, what the world seen through those kind of eyes. And so I was really excited to be part of that, Jared team and be a part of kind of bringing that world to light. And so when we started looking at like the costumes, what kind of clothes this character would wear, that's when we really start to flesh him out. I was like, oh yeah, he should wear some moon boots. Yeah. And then Jared's wife actually said, John, what do you think about a perm? And so it kind of all started piling up and fleshing this out. So when Jared set out to make Napoleon Dynamite, he knew even like a couple of years earlier, he was like, all right, I want to make my first feature. I want to make it, I want to call it Napoleon Dynamite. And he wanted to make it about, some weird kid in Preston, Idaho, but he actually was like thinking of a different kind of character that he wanted me to play.
Okay.
But then after okay, I want you to be the lead, but it's going to be a different kind of crusty kid. He's going to have braces. He's probably going to be like shaved head and really, really weird. And I mean, just a different vibe, but still kind of the same world. But after the short film and everybody loving it, and I think just for him, he saw how well it worked.
Right.
Like, let's just do a feature. Like, let's use that character, but flesh him out even more and bring in all these other characters that he was thinking of. Yeah.
No, I mean, you definitely seem like you were made for the role, I mean, it was literally like you just birthed this character. And that's, I guess that's the point, right?
I just happened to be there in the operation room at the same time when he birthed, but really felt that way. And I certainly helped when he started writing the feature film. He had all these little story ideas and things in mind, but by the time he started, like even before the short film, I think he had these scenes of working on a chicken farm and doing the school, like the skit for the election and having a Pedro and having this and that. But when we did the short film, now he had a voice and he was like, okay, I can write. It's like a writer's room, writing for a sitcom. I was like, I got this guy. I can write for him easily. So really Napoleon was like the easiest character. He just kind of just came out. And then all the other characters where he was trying to focus on like fleshing out with Pedro and Kip, because this was their debut.
Right. And it was set, it felt like it wasn't set in the 80s, but it felt like it was in the 80s. Was that intentional?
It was intentional to really just capture kind of the vibe of not just Preston, Idaho, which is kind of stuck in its own little time period. But I think it was just that idea of really small town life in these small towns, not even cities, just really small towns out in the middle of nowhere, and how they're not really fully up to date on, not just technology, but culture and style and fashion and pop culture. And I think because of that, for anybody who's spent time in these places out in the middle of nowhere, that's kind of the vibe. You don't have a lot of updating an interior decoration that gets updated. The idea that they live with their grandma, she never would have touched, the interior, had interest in redoing her house. And that was kind of like the vibe everywhere. So
yeah,
I think he was kind of going for, let's get a little 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s in there, kind of mix it all together,
okay.
and I think it helped that we made that movie right before social media really took off,
Yeah, that's true.
Internet was around. And so, and I love that we have the internet in there, talking about chatting online and that really helps to kind of tell people, oh yeah, this is now, this is something now, but it's still a little bit like back, it's still a little dated.
Right. Yeah. And I know it kind of makes me feel a little old when I think back to like when it, because I was like 25 when it came out. And I remember thinking like, oh, this is so genius. It's kind of a new style of like comedic timing in a way, right? Like, I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on at the time, but like that was the first, I think that's why it became so iconic as well, because it was the first style of that particular type of comedy.
We were certainly influenced by many comedies before that, and like every film director, they're going to have their influences. A lot of the Coen brothers, you can certainly like Coen brothers and Wes Anderson, there's some similar vibes there. But I think with that movie in particular, Jared was really not, I don't even know how much he was trying to set up a style as it was just kind of an honesty, and it was more of a style of world, and just this. It's like, let's take Wes Anderson, but go for a crustier level of portrayal of American life that we don't always get to see, but we know is there. And we've all, experienced some way or another, whether we sat next to that kid in art class or we were that kid in art class.
Yeah, absolutely. It also had kind of like a sitcom vibe to it as well. Like old style sitcom, like Three's Company vibe,
Yeah, I think, but without the energetic laugh track of the audience where you're not quite sure, are we supposed to be laughing now? I mean, it's so funny. Quiet and there's so much dead space.
Right.
This is one of the few movies I really think the dead space is, part of the comedy. It's like just someone says a line, then there's like 5 seconds of silence, and then someone says the next line, and then another few seconds of silence. But it really works because I think every line in the film is just part of the character, and that's why it becomes so quotable. It's not so much about telling the story through dialogue; it's really just painting a picture.
Yeah, I think it's one of the most quoted movies. Actually, do you still have people coming up to you and trying to quote your own lines at you?
Yeah, if they're lucky enough to get close to me.
Right. That's right.
I got my bodyguards, which by bodyguards, I mean my kids who are actually worthless. Instead, they'll invite people over. Hey, actually, I think when they were younger, they would be like, hey, did you know my dad? Or like, hey, or if someone asked, they would not help me out. And they would say, yeah, that's him.
They're pointing. Yeah. That's great. Have they seen your films?
A few. I mean, I think they're like, they've seen Napoleon, but it's not like they've gone back and, are like, oh, this is our favorite thing. No, yeah. I mean, I think I'm like, well, wait, a lot of kids your age like this. Like anything, I think they're just like, well, it's dad.
Right.
I'm not gonna, like, doesn't make sense to like, it's just weird. I think they don't have the same kind of connect because it's like, well, okay, it's dad. But it helps because they're also like, I guess there's a show I did, Pickle and Peanut, for Disney Channel, an animated show, and they love it. They love that show. So I do have kind of both worlds going on. There's okay, I don't need to watch this because it's dad. And I'm like, fine. But then there's other things I've done and they really get into it and they love it to death. And they know it's me, but I think it's like, they're not looking at me. It's a little bit more,
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because it's animated. So it's like they know it's your voice, but they're like, oh, wait, they can separate it.
Yeah, it's great.
Do you think you guys will ever do anything more with Napoleon Dynamite as far as a sequel or reunion, something or other?
I can't divulge that information. No, I really don't know. I'm not part of that decision making unless, they ask me. I would totally be up to do more. I honestly don't think the world of Napoleon is dead. Like, I think there's still avenues, and I feel like they could not just could be more, but I feel like something could happen.
Okay.
In the future, whether it's a TV show or a movie or sequel or another animated series or something.
That'd be fun. You could even do like a Napoleon Borat crossover. I think those two characters would be hilarious.
Napoleon Borat crossover. That would be interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know. That just popped in my head.
Have them walk around like it's either Borat in Napoleon's world where it's more cinematic and they're not looking at the camera, or it's Napoleon in Borat's world and they're walking around and they're just talking to people.
Right. I think that could be good. I think it'd be interesting to see those two characters play off each other, actually.
It would be fun.
Well,
they'd probably be like, no way. You got like, just like, he'd be so excited. Like, wait, you're from this country? And they'd start talking about the similarities and the cool underground fight clubs that they have in
Kazakhstan. Yeah.
Kazakhstan. Yeah. I was like, wait a second. I forgot for a second where you're from.
You're like, try a tater tot, and yeah,
come try this tater tot. It's loaded. You'll love it.
Loaded tots. Oh, it's awesome. Well, so another hilarious movie you're in is Blades of Glory. I can't imagine how many times I've seen this movie now. It's been a while, but it's such a silly, funny movie with Will Ferrell and a great cast of people. Like, what was like that experience like for you, just being around such a funny cast and such, you're wearing spandex and
I mean, it was a whole nother experience. It was completely opposite for Napoleon, where big studio, giant crew, half the people, like so much of the crew I didn't know or ever even saw, because there's just so many technical things, special effects and stunts. You know what I mean? It was just a completely different approach, but it was a dream come true. Obviously, I mean, the two big things was working with Will Ferrell, which was a dream. And not only was I pinching myself like the first day meeting him, but also like it turned out to be a great experience working with him. Like my expectations were surpassed because he was such a cool guy and so nice and really funny. And so like you couldn't have asked for a better, like, okay, this guy's really funny. I'm in a movie with Will and he's great. And I couldn't ask for more. And then on top of that, it's like I got to learn some ice skating, which I really loved.
Cool.
I thought it was so much fun. I mean, they're like so challenging, you know what I mean? Like, okay, I'm like, this is work. I'm trying to keep up with Will comedy wise, ice skating, I guess he was trying to keep up with me. He was not as gifted in that.
Not as agile.
Not as agile, but that's okay. Cause it didn't matter. Like but physically, it was strenuous and we had to work out and we had to, learn the routines and learn how to kind of look natural on the ice, and then wearing the costumes and really being part of that process of like coming up with the costumes and like that was such a big part of it, was the costume designer coming to us and saying, hey, what do you think about this? And do you have any ideas? And I love that. It was like really cool to be part of that creative process. And
yeah, that's cool. Did you watch any like ice skating competitions on television to prepare?
Well, I think I believe the Olympics, let's see, we shot it in 2006. So yeah, the Olympics had just happened earlier that year.
Okay.
So we had a lot of fresh footage that the directors would send me, and, I'd be watching Johnny Weir do his thing. And I pulled a lot of inspiration from him amongst some other, Michelle Kwan and a lot of those kind of skaters for not just costumes, but just flair and the kind of attitude and a lot of that. So yeah, I mean, I remember watching a lot and just really getting in, just jumping into that world. And it was awesome.
That's so cool. Yeah. I mean, it's such a funny film. And I think that one is quoted a lot too, actually. And then you also have like Amy Poehler in there, who, I don't know if she was on SNL at the time or not.
I believe she was still on it.
Was she? Okay. Yeah. I bet she was super fun to work with as well. I mean, she's hilarious. Did you guys do a lot of, was there like a blooper reel, because it must be hard to keep a straight face when you're filming some of these scenes.
There's for sure a blooper reel. And it was a different kind of, it wasn't a laid back comedy. When you really think of like so many other comedies where like an Anchorman or Step Brothers, where they're just messing around, and and those kind of movies are really just kind of almost sketch based, where it's here's a situation and this just lightly write a scene, but then let the comedians and these comic actors really just kind of play it out and mess around and do different takes. Whereas this one was a little bit more like there's a story we have to follow. This is really a story, it's not so much sketch based as it is concept based. The concept being of two men who have to sketch each other, but it's really just, it's cutting edge. It's a romantic comedy. It's two people who hate each other, come from opposite worlds, have to learn to work together, skate together. And then, in the end, they essentially fall in love. And, in this case, it's a bromance, but like they accept each other and they really dig each other and they have fun. And so because of that, you're really kind of following stories. There's definitely some, there's room to like throw in some different lines here, a few things just to try it. Like, okay, here's a different version of the same line, but whether it was on the ice or dealing, I mean, it's not loosey goosey, we're either doing a lot of physical stuff and you're just like, okay, I got to get this right. I got to worry about my costume. I got my hair. But at the same time, it was still like really, there was a laid backness to it because they could afford that. And being a studio film, you weren't so tight. And again, working with Will made it really cool.
That's awesome. I mean, you've worked with a lot of amazing people. Like you did Benchwarmers with David Spade, and then School for Scoundrels with Billy Bob Thornton, who is just, I love him. He's hilarious. Yeah. What was it like working with him? Because he's so just on all the time, and you guys had great chemistry in that movie, and that was not a bromance. What was that experience like?
It was great. I loved working. I mean, if you go back and look at the cast, it's incredible. You see all the students of the class are all these great comedians who at the time were like up and coming or barely had any screen time on anything. And now you're like, whoa, there's so-and-so, there's so-and-so. There's like, it really is cool to see that. Most of them far surpass me by now. But Billy Bob, who was like, I probably saw the least amount because, he would just come in and do his stuff. That said, he was really cool. It was cool because he kind of has this Southern gentleman kind of vibe. Like his character wears all these suits, but like after, in between sets, he would have me come into his trailer. We'd hang out a little bit. We talk and he'd give me a stack of all his DVDs of the movies he'd been in just as a gift. I was like, oh, thanks a lot, man.
It's like, check me out.
Here's my stack of 2 movies. At the time when we shot it, maybe 1 movie. I was like, well, here's Napoleon. Signed it for you. But yeah, it was really great because, he was very, very polite and very nice to everyone. And yet then he'd open his mouth and tell like a joke. And it was like the dirtiest joke ever. And it was like, okay, I'm starting to get a feel for who this guy is. And he was awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah. Years ago, we were at a thing, in LA, and my boyfriend's a big fan of his, and he saw him and he walked up to him and he said, my favorite movie of all time of yours is Bad Santa. And he goes, I don't think anyone has ever said that to me before.
Oh, that's got to be a lie. I love Bad Santa.
Right?
Santa's best. Yeah.
How is that not? Yeah, I thought everybody liked that movie, right?
I think a lot of people do. You're probably just making your boyfriend feel special.
Yeah, right. Or stupid. Like what?
Or stupid.
Yeah. He's all, why are you talking to me now?
Nobody's ever said that. Nobody would be that stupid. Come on, get out of my face.
Exactly. So we got to talk about your new movie because it's friggin' awesome. I just watched it. Tremors, Shrieker Island. I'm a big Tremors fan. Seen all of them. So this is such an iconic franchise and it's got a cult following, as you know. How did you get involved in this film? Like, how did they lure you into it?
lure me into it. Dude, Thailand is how they lured me into it. Yeah, we shot it. I think after I told everybody, and still when I tell people like, oh yeah, I'm in the Tremors movie. Like, Tremors. Oh yeah, I saw that. I saw the first movie back in 90, 91,
Right.
Like, yep, I know the same thing. Like I didn't realize that this was like the 7th one. I was like, holy cow. I knew they made some, but so it was really great knowing you're coming into this like franchise that's got a fan base and then kind of slowly having that world unfolded and seeing like, oh wow, Burt Gummer is a legend. Like we're talking about him in the movie like he's a legend,
Right.
which is weird because you're also talking about him like in real life. Like, fans are like, dude, this is Burt Gummer. He's been in every single one. He knows his stuff. So I've never done something like that. You're kind of coming in, but it was also the first, action film I really got to be in.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, was it your first action/horror film?
Yeah. And I'm kind of bummed that it's my first one. I'm like, where has this been all my life? I loved it. It was so much fun making an action film and doing stunts and just that kind of playing with the flamethrower and running around with machetes and chainsaws and getting to fight monsters that aren't really there. And just like, and also you're doing it all in the jungle, the real jungle, not like going up to Santa Barbara in some back,
state park or something.
Yeah, state park. You're like, we flew to Thailand and we shot everything there in real jungles and real caves and on the ocean. That was really, it was such an incredible experience. I loved every second of it. And I loved Thailand. It was amazing. And I loved doing, the beauty of it is, as I'm sure everybody knows, like this is the branch of Universal's like, okay, we have all these franchises and we're going to keep making these movies and they're on a limited budget. And because of that, you're not shooting in some gigantic studio lot with nothing but green screens. You really, everything was there. Is real. And
that's cool.
So like almost, I think the very end of the shoot, we had like 2 days where we shot on a studio where it was like, okay, inside a bunker, that was a studio. And then part of the cave, in order to be able to use a flamethrower, they built like just a little part of the cave because they wouldn't allow you to use, the local government said like, you can't use a flamethrower in a real cave. So
national treasure
to show you that it's like, it's like, but pretty much just except for those few little shots, everything else is like real.
Yeah, it looked real. The scenery was gorgeous. Sometimes you watch movies and you're like, oh, that's Florida, but this looked really like a tropical island and it wasn't, just like a green screen in the background. And was the weather, was it nice, as far as like, did you get any storms while you were there? Or?
Oh yeah, there was, for the most part, it was incredible. It was, it was exactly kind of what you picture. It's very tropical and I loved it. But with that tropical weather, you have a few thunderstorms every now and then, or some downpouring of rain. And there was a scene we shot where Burt Gummer and I, Michael Gross and I, are boating back from a battle we just had with the Shriekers on a boat, and I'm piloting the boat. It's just this longtail boat where it's smaller, but we're like in the ocean. The camera boat is 30 feet, 50 feet away from us. And they're like, all right, just aim for that spot, John. Don't get too close to the sandbar. You might, crash or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay. And it's just monsoon. It's just it's like a white squall just pouring on us so hard that we were drenched in seconds. And I'm kind of laughing, thinking, I can laugh out loud. There's no way they're going to use this footage.
Right.
It's ruined. Like you can't see anything. But it was also so exhilarating because I was like, just kind of like, I'm in the middle of Thailand in the ocean on a little boat with me and Michael. And they're never going to use this footage, but we're just like, we're busting through these choppy waves with lightning, coming down. It was like, this is incredible.
That's awesome. I hope you're wearing a life vest.
Sure.
Debatable.
They had a safety boat, like 30 feet away, just in case of anything.
Right. Hollywood scuba divers, like
sure.
Swimming along with you.
The local Thai Hollywood.
Right. Was that your first time in Thailand?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Well, your character, Jimmy, brings, obviously the comedic relief. I mean, there's some funny lines of all the characters, but your lines are, the funniest. And I feel like it's necessary. Like when you have a suspenseful horror / action film, you got to have that comedic relief. So tell us, how does your character get mixed up in monster hunting?
Well, so is this a story question now?
Oh, yes. I would love that.
Well, it's great because, he is, if you watch some of, I've seen bits of a couple of the past films, and it's almost like, all right, Burt Gummer's going to be at front and center, and we have to have the monsters in. Somehow he's roped in. But they actually do it in a pretty good way in this one. But, I'm a scientist on an island who's doing biological research with animals, biopreservation, or I think that's ecobiologists, whatever you call it.
Right.
Something
Giant
like
elephants. There's a lot of elephants.
Yeah. And we're basically, we are biological preservationists for these animals. So, we're peaceful. We're not gun-toting crazy people. But the monsters have been let loose on our neighbor island by the guy who kind of funds our shindig. And he's this, crazy hunter who lets all these rich people come and hunt wild game. And he thought the next newest sport is by not, I guess, cloning, but using and playing with the DNA of these creatures and creating them on this island, breeding them just so that they can be hunted.
Right.
And obviously, things don't always go.
We've all watched Jurassic Park.
Nature is always, yes, it's very much like in the Jurassic Park world where, we don't, they act out of turn and life cannot be stifled. So things get out of hand and we kind of get mixed into it because we're there on the island and we're the only ones who can really stop it from hurting the local population. So we kind of team up with Bert. We go find him, bring him in. It's like, hey, you're the local guy. You know what you're doing. And by local, he just happens to be on an island that's, 30 clicks away or something like that, whatever they say. And conveniently, kind of marooned on an island. And so we grab him and bring him. And they're like, all right, so what do we do? And it's like, we gotta gun up. And it's kind of fun because there's like, well, when we're just scientists, we don't have any guns. So it's like the first one where Bert doesn't have a gun and he kind of is like, what do I do?
Yeah, that was really interesting because all of them, the previous films, he's got an arsenal of stuff, like just grenades, you name it, he has it. So I'm like, wait, he doesn't have a gun. What's he gonna do?
Yep. So, our team gets a little creative on how to fight these things. And so, I was really, attracted to the character when reading the script because here's this guy who's like, you can tell he has a sense of adventure. He's living on this island temporarily while he's, heading the team, this science team in this really cool kind of a camp that they've created. And he's probably like, all right, he loves his job, but a little adventure kind of suits him and he's kind of into it. And while he's looking, kind of not just past, but looking into himself and finding that inner strength because he is a little bit like, well, look, this was fun for a little bit, but this is like life or death. And I was never cut out for this. Come on. I mean,
it's getting a little bit much.
I'm a scientist. And
yeah.
So, he has his moments of fun, but he has his moments of self-doubt and makes the character a little bit more rounded and really fun to try to, have his moments of winning.
Yeah. He kind of goes back and forth because like at one point he's like spouting leadership guidebook, rules, he's like leadership, entry number, whatever. And then he's like, wait, I'm the weakest one. That means I'm next. It's just, he's like, let's blow them up. Wait, why did I sign up for this? It's kind of a fun thing to watch him just like yo-yo all over.
Yeah, I hope it worked out that way.
Yeah. No, it was really funny. And Michael Gross is so intense. I mean, he's he's become this character. I mean, obviously some of us remember him from Family Ties. Right. but he is like Bert now.
Yeah.
And, that must have been cool. Like, had you met him before? Had you ever worked with him before?
No, I hadn't. And no, that's actually a lie. And I think he did not remember, but he was actually one of the very first celebrities I ever met.
Oh, wow.
Because it was at Sundance. I think it was at Sundance when Napoleon premiered. And we went to some screening or something. But I told him, I was like, dude, you were actually one of the very first celebrities I met. It was very quick. It was in passing so much that I'm not surprised that he didn't remember, because I was, nobody knew who I was or what the movie was. But we met on the plane flying to Thailand. I was looking for him. And he's like, if you remember the beginning of the film, he's got like a big old long beard and long hair. And so he grew it out. And so I didn't recognize him at first. And he had like white khaki, like shirt on. I mean, he looked like he was from Jurassic, like he was John Hammond in Jurassic Park. He had this white, like very loose, kind of almost a khaki suit with this hat, straw hat. And I was like, who is this? Michael Gross? But like the Family Ties character, I mean, he's so laid back and so gentle and so nice. And so, when he jumps into Bert mode, it's fun because you can tell he's having fun and he's totally just acting. Because he's not at all like that in person.
Well, that's so fun. Did you guys have a lot of fun with like working with a stunt team? I mean, did you do any of your own stunts, or was it like a mixture?
Yeah, no, I got to it was really cool because, again, doing a few stunts here and there in past films, but really this time working closer with the stunt team, getting to do, I mean, it wasn't crazy. We weren't doing Marvel level stuff, but I got to do a little bit of wire work, and just a little bit. I was like, oh man, I would love to do more of this. This is so fun. And they were really cool. It was just this local Thai, I mean, based there in Bangkok, but they really, they knew their stuff. They made sure we were really safe. And so, I got to do most of my stunts. There was a couple things I had a really great double who they gave the flamethrower to, because they were like, no, you're not allowed to do this. But even the double was like, oh, this is intense. Oh yeah. Flamethrowers are crazy. They are crazy scary and cool, but like really, really intense. And like, you have to know what you're doing.
Oh, wow. I can't even imagine holding one. Does it have like the kickback, like a regular?
Not so much. It's just there's so much heat and so much that could go wrong. I mean, they have to cover these guys in jelly, like this inflammable jelly, or flame retardant jelly that's like to keep you not just from not burning, but also from getting too hot. Like it cools you a little bit. And so it was very bizarre, to see these guys put the flamethrowers down and they're just covered in this weird, like clear gelatinous goop.
Slimed.
And then the next second you're getting covered in graboid goop. So lots of goop on this film.
Yeah, I noticed that. There's like everyone's just covered in slimy stuff all the time. Is that all?
Yeah, there was like a rite of passage. They always like, and I knew it was coming. They're like, oh yeah, you always get covered by that orange graboid gut blood. It's that goop. Yeah. And so I was waiting for that moment. I guess I do get gooped when I finally am fighting them with the chainsaw. But leading up to that moment when shooting, there was a couple other moments where they're like, we're running away and then we blow up a graboid. It's supposed to rain down. And I kept telling them, I was like, dude, I think I'm going to outrun this. I want to get gooped, but I was also kind of secretly like, oh, this would be great. And they kept saying, no, it's great. It's going to fly everywhere. It's going to get everyone. And we did it like 3 takes, and every time I would outrun it, not on purpose. I was like, look, you got to time it right. And it kept missing me and getting all my co-stars behind me. I was like,
you seemed pretty clean in most of the scenes, actually.
Yeah, I was kind of like, all right, sweet. But, that didn't last long. I had to get covered by it.
Yeah, you did have that one scene where you were like literally drenched in it and you couldn't even see. Was there anything in the film, like stunt wise, that you're like, oh no, I'm not going to do that. That's too crazy.
Well, they, like I said, the flamethrower would have been I mean, I would have been game for it if they had let me, but maybe if I did it for a second, but they never even gave me that opportunity. They were just like, no, this is
right.
I don't know. I mean, maybe there's different versions, maybe it's different teams that have different equipment, you just don't know. But no, pretty much everything else they had. Oh man, I wonder, they really should have like more special features on it, but
yeah.
Oh, man, I wish they had that. I had, the director, he says, I've done so many films, and this is by far the worst stunt double I've ever had for an actor. In the film, there's, the long tail boats is what they call them, that very Southeast Asian style of these boats that are kind of long, but they have this really long, not a rudder. I guess it's run by like a car engine, but it's this really long pole. So you have to it's not easy to maneuver because it's really heavy, and it's not like you can't do quick maneuvering in it. And it's really meant to just it's like a taxi boat that you use on the ocean. But there's, the scene where we're going into the cave to fight these shriekers.
Mm-hmm.
There's all these stalactites hanging, stalagmites. I always forget. Whatever's hanging from the ceiling, the stalactites, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right.
And they're hanging down, and it's like, this would have taken some really expert maneuvering, and I just didn't have enough time to train. And so they're like, well, we got to get a local Thai guy who knows. Like the only people who really knew what they were doing were just Thai people there.
Yeah.
And so they got this guy. If you saw the picture, he was like half my height. He was like three, not even three, like I don't know how many shades darker he was. I mean, completely. He was kind of squat, short, not even close. But luckily, it was all long shots. You couldn't see, but going through the caves, he did it. He nailed it. He was maneuvering his way through these stalactites. It was like, whoa, I couldn't believe it.
It's amazing.
He got the boat in there. So yeah, that was one, I guess stunt. Like I was like, okay, yeah, probably better left in some other hands. But there was, like reading the script, you're seeing like, oh, here's a moment where I have to cover myself in mud. Just cover, like start glooping it all over myself. And you're like, we're in a real cave, and is this real, like, I guess is real mud, and you just start doing it.
Right.
But like anything, especially helps being an actor. You're like, all right, I'm just going to do it. I'm going for it. There's moments where you're like, there's no room for complaining or like, oh, this is
gross. Yeah.
You don't even have time to think about it. You just do it.
You're like, I'm going to be method now.
Yeah. Just like, all right, just go for it.
That's funny. Was the slime like, whatever the goo or whatever you want to call it?
Yeah.
That's something that you were completely just like sick of smelling and tasting by the end of it?
No, I think I got gooped when I was like, killing that. There's a couple of those creatures I'm killing. And so it was really one day, and it was one scene. It was like I think there was just the one that really sprayed me right in the face. And it was kind of one moment. All right. Cause they don't have time or the money or the means to do tons of stuff. So they're like, all right, let's get this. And it was totally fine. It was totally fine. I mean, I guess if I kept getting gooped over and over and over all day, then there might have been an issue, but luckily it wasn't too bad.
That's good. Some of the other actors are like, wow, must be nice.
Yeah, they really hated me.
So I think you mentioned this earlier, but just to clarify, were those computer generated, or were any of them animatronics?
Yeah, they were all computer generated. That was one thing, getting on set. There was a couple, like anything, the director really wanted more practical and physical practical effects, but it sounds weird to say now, but they cost more because they take more time and they take more work, and it would have been awesome. And he was like, we just didn't have the time, or we didn't have the budget to get some of these creatures, so we have to do everything CG, which is a bummer, but it turned out way better looking than I thought it would. I really was.
Were you at the time were like, oh god, this is going to be.
I just was like, CG when done really well, like I've always been a fan of practical effects. I mean, so fun about the original film, all these really, it's there. And it's fake, but there's just something about like when you can touch it, it's really cool and it's fun. But I was pleasantly surprised. I thought the effects turned out pretty good and not bad and believable. You're like, okay, my wife, she watched with me and she was tense. She was like, whoa, oh, there's some moments like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, you get jumpy. Like there's some jumpy moments.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's a testament to the acting then, because, the audience, we can't, we see the computer generation and we see you reacting to it. So, we don't, it looked authentic. So good job.
Well, good. Yes. It was excellent acting on our part, on my part, especially. No.
Exactly. It'll be award winning, I promise. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
For the Screamer Awards, do they have? I mean, they probably, I don't know.
That sounds like a real award. Is
it totally said, I don't know. We'll have to look it up. I got 3 Screamers last year and I'm going to break my record.
Right. The Shrieker Awards. There you go.
Shrieker Awards. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think there'll be more Tremors movies in your future?
I do not know. I think, I mean, that's just guessing. I mean, I've not been told anything, so I don't know, but you know what? I think if they called, I'd probably say yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt like it was kind of, not without giving too much away for anyone listening that hasn't watched it. I mean,
isn't this called Spoiler Podcast?
It really is. Yeah. So
so whatever. I feel like,
fuck them. Yeah.
Country, like, hello.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
I can ask this. Is that why you're called Spoiler Country? Because you're always spoiling things?
I think so. Yeah. I'm not really sure on the name. Yeah, I think so. I think we just spoil everybody's endings. Yeah. But I mean, this film came out in 2020, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you haven't watched it by now.
No, wait.
Or did it just come out?
No, you're right. 2020.
Yeah. Or it was filmed in 2020. No.
We filmed it in 2019, end of 2019, and then it came out end of 2020.
Okay, great. Yeah. And then maybe the next one you can have Reba McEntire back. That would be amazing, right?
Oh my gosh. If we could write that back in, yeah.
Yeah, you and Reba.
Yeah. Although that would be like, okay, there's some weird, because, you have Jamie Kennedy who played his son. I'm not his son, but he was not the son of Bert and Reba. He was the son of Bert and this new, and Jasmine, who again, a new lady. Kind of spoiling, but if you haven't seen the movie,
sorry,
you'll learn the truth to that. I don't think it's really spoiling because it's
right.
revealed early on.
That's true.
But yeah, I don't know. It's
I mean, because Reba, she lived in the first film, and wait, Kevin Bacon was in that too.
Yeah.
I mean, let's get him back as well, right?
Why not?
I mean, that would be great. Like a reunion movie. If he was the new protege.
Yeah. I'll reach out to him.
Okay. I hope so. I noticed on your IMDb you have a few upcoming projects coming up as well. Is there anything on there that you can talk about? Are they all super secret or?
Oh, they're probably all super old.
Okay.
Sometimes things get put up there and I don't know how to edit it, and then they just get left up there. So probably out of date. You never know. I mean, a lot of wishful thinking. But right now, nothing. I mean, there's, I've got a couple of films that are slated to shoot this summer, but I can't really say too much about them right now. I mean, one's a comedy and one's a drama. And it's just excited to get back to work.
Yeah. I think are the filming is starting to open up more now?
I think so. I mean, I think it's been, they're both independent films, and in the indie world, there is, there's another movie I just shot actually in January, a romantic comedy that will probably be released later this year, I think around Thanksgiving time. And that one, and they followed all the COVID regulations as much as I am aware that they exist. I mean, it felt like they were doing their job. So I think that, but certainly like the movie that I'm supposed to be shooting this summer, they originally were going to shoot in January, and they're like, look, we got to push it because it's just so hard to get some of these locations and so hard to book so-and-so because of COVID.
Yeah.
So yeah, it has been affected, but I think, for sure more and more now. I'm amazed how much television and stuff
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
During COVID, I'm like seeing all this stuff come out with everybody wearing masks. I'm like, oh, I thought they really halted a lot of stuff, but apparently not.
Yeah, there's new shows popping up on Netflix, literally like every 20 minutes. Yeah. I'm like, where are they finding
a writer strike hits us harder than a pandemic.
Absolutely.
Pandemic? Oh, we'll just sail right through that. No problem. Writer strike, what are we going to do?
No content for years. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. Do you find it weird sometimes, like when you're watching a show now on Netflix and I'm like, oh, they're standing too close together. You know what I mean? Like forget that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, kind of. It is. I haven't been watching a lot of stuff, but yeah, you are thinking, especially if you're watching something that is, you know, was shot during the pandemic.
Right.
It's like, how did they pull that off? Oh, well, I guess they were like, yeah, so many questions. You're like, I guess, I mean, I wasn't there. I didn't shoot that. So I didn't know what the protocol is. Did they quarantine together for like a while? What exactly was what was everything they had to do? It's very bizarre.
It's such a strange thing. I wonder how many like apocalypse movies surrounded around the pandemic are going to start popping up, you know, in the next 5 years.
You know, it'll be interesting, but it is a bummer seeing. I'm sick of the masks. Not so much wearing. I mean, sure, wearing is one thing, but just not being able to see people's faces. I miss that.
Yeah. No, me too. I'm doing a double mask now. Because I heard that was like effective. Like you put like the paper one and then the cloth one over it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't go out much, but when I do, I'm like, all right, I got the double mask.
Great.
I should be
That's
good.
Great. Yeah. It's great. No, I mean, it's like it's great to like to mask up and to feel like, you know, you're doing your part and just trying to like help not just keep everybody safe, but it's part of that mentality of like helping. Just this is, you know, what we should be doing. But it is a bummer. I can't wait for it to be done. I can't wait to, you know, for things to go back to normal. And
100%. Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll get to see you in some more action, you know, horror films. Since
I hope so.
That's like your thing now.
Yeah, like I've always held off a little bit on horror films. I mean, not that I've had a lot of come my way, but I watch a lot of horror films. I have friends who, you know, are into horror, like work in the horror industry. And every now and then a script or they'll say, oh, what about this? And they'll push it my way. I'm like, but I think that's just like anything else. It's more like they're either bad scripts or they're just not that great. I mean, a good horror can be, I guess I'm not against horror. Like it just has to be like anything, a smart film, if it's really good and well done. And Tremors doesn't really feel like your typical horror. It's not like all these people being offed one by one. Well, I guess actually that did happen a lot in Shrieker Island. All the hunters are just getting picked off. But you know, it's a different kind of horror film. It's more of an action comedy with, you know, some tense moments.
Yeah. And I felt like it was true. It stayed true to the Tremors franchise.
Yeah.
You know, like it had that same, you know, just like with Predator, when you watch a Predator movie, it feels like a Predator movie. Like this felt like a Tremors movie, which is, you know, a good thing.
Yeah. Good. And I'm down for that for sure. I would love to do more action films and if they, and maybe it's like monster films. Maybe that's the kind of like, oh, that was fun.
Yeah.
You put me in a Jurassic Park. I'll nail it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're totally ready for that now. I mean, you got the training.
Yeah. I know how to run away from something that's not there.
Right. You got a chainsaw, you know, practice. And
I know how to focus my eyes every 30 meters. Yeah. I got it.
Running where there's like stuff spraying down on you, but it's not really
exactly
there, but you're brushing it off. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Genius. I love it. Well, thanks so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I loved the film. For, you know, everyone listening, Tremors Shrieker Island is streaming on Netflix, but you can also rent it or buy it on Amazon Prime as well if you don't have Netflix.
And iTunes as well, I believe.
Oh, great. Oh,
correct?
Awesome.
I believe it's on most of the digital platforms where you can buy and rent.
To buy and rent. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Yes, it is for sure. I shouldn't say I think that's bad salesmanship on my part.
You're like,
it is
maybe
definitely available to rent and buy on iTunes, on Amazon, and probably a couple other platforms I'm just not aware of. Vudu, right?
Yes, Vudu is a buy rent
Google Play
one
or something like that.
Probably Xbox too. I'm guessing they have like their Xbox has their movie rent and buy thing. Yeah. But you definitely watch it for free if you want to watch it for free on Netflix, right?
But as we all know, it's not for free because Netflix is just sucking us dry.
That's right.
They're bringing us. No, it's great.
Raising the prices every month. Yeah. No, it's a great movie.
Netflix. I'm just kidding. I would be more than happy to do a Netflix original series, a limited series, extended series, whatever. It's cool. It's cool.
Great. Netflix, if you're listening, we love you. We do. Yeah. Well, yeah, everybody watch the movie because it's really good. It's got action, things are blowing up, and it's got the comedic relief. So I really enjoyed it. I think everyone will too. So yeah, thanks for stopping by. This has been fun.
Thank you, Melissa. It was awesome. It was my pleasure and this kind of stuff.
Awesome. Me too. And if you want to come back in the future to talk about the secret projects that you can't talk about, we'd love to have you back.
All right, we'll do.